Hey. Okay. Oopsie. Hold on. Oh, that's what this is doing. Okay. There we go. Had to get my camera lined up. Okay, so this message is going to be valuable to you. It's going to be about how to deal with the changing times, with inflation, with uncertainty, like large degrees of uncertainty. All right? Now, I myself tend to be attracted to these types of conditions in life. You know, the 6 core basic human needs. You know, Anthony Robbins always talked about those things. You know, certainty, uncertainty, and legacy are like my top 3 human desires, if you will, human desires. Obviously, legacy is the third thing I said, so it's the most important for me. And if you don't know why I just said that, you know, your mind triads. So what it does is it gives you answers in 3s, and the first thing's the obsession, and the second thing is fluff, and the third thing is the heart of the matter. So the heart of the matter with everything that I do is every time I'm taking action on something, I'm always thinking, you know, am I building my legacy here? Or is this, you know, just wasted energy? So for me, there's nothing I love more than really just laying out the footprints for people to walk in, and just to say, hey, you know, I took these steps, and here, I found a path that's quicker. Why don't you take this path? That's what my ministry really reflects, is just doing my best to discern God's voice versus the world mind. All right, because the kingdom within is God's voice, and the distraction, the enemy, the fall of man is the world voice. So we want to become sensitive to that, which I'm now getting into what we're going to do coming into this next phase. And God's been dealing with me, you know, gently prompting me, and I'm recognizing that, you know, much of my personality, my persona, these things really have to go for me to continue to bring wisdom. I mean, let's face it. Every human vessel is flawed. So often, you know, and I've seen this happen so many times, you know, people like one of my mentors, a minister who I've gotten a great deal from, actually many of them, you know, they get shunned and they get hated on, and look at how they did this, look at how they did that, what an evil person. And I'm like, look, here's the bottom line. If you're looking at the human, there's nothing good in any human out there. There's none good in any of them. God says that in the Bible. There's none good in any of them. It's the divine qualities that come through when we are subduing our humanhood, if you will. Our personality is our humanhood. When we subdue humanhood, then we allow for the divine to break through. You know, the sun begins to shine through the clouds, and then we are able to communicate from the God mind, discern the voice of the Holy Spirit. And so my aim and intention here in this video for you is to help you get there. And, you know, first of all, I want to apologize publicly to anyone who has ever watched me and has ever said, you know, this guy, you know, I just don't vibe his personality. Like, you know, because honestly, I'm in my development phase just as much as anyone else is. And I seem to do my best transmissions when I hide. You know, when I put the glasses on and I cover everything up and I wear the black and I just hide. Because for me, psychologically, it's I'm becoming nobody. I'm removing my personality as best as I can, and that allows me to bring a better transmission for the most part. So just so you know, the intention for me is always legacy. I really, really think about how I approach my teaching as if, hey, one day my kids will listen to me, right? One day these kids are gonna be like, what is Dad talking about? We should watch his videos. And if that day comes, I want them to see, wow, this is a good idea. I might try this. It's like you can tell your kids all they want, and they're gonna follow some of them, but because it's you, they're gonna rebel, because that's the nature of them, seeking their own autonomy in a world that is full of opinions. I get that. So that's what I try to do with all my books and everything. And you can see through my writings there, there was quite a bit of personality, especially in Ask Until It Was Given. And then we try to tone that down a bit. So in my new book, I kind of come out with a little bit of personality in the first chapter or so, and that's just reflecting the world mind, and then I'm going to subdue it down, and then I'm going to bring it into the pure awareness of spirit. So anyway, not relevant to what you're here for. You're like, come on, Matt, get to the point. What are we going to do here? We got inflation coming on, we got all this uncertainty. What do we do with it? Well, what we do is we always do the same thing, okay? The first thing you have to recognize is that the world mind and all of its emanations, all of the things of this world that stir up envy and strife, the law of the world is envy and strife. Law implies power, it implies governance, it implies operation, and yet it's all zero. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. So here's what you can do. Have a sobering moment of realization with yourself and just laugh at all of it. I'm serious. How can we laugh when eggs are $5 a carton? How can we laugh when gas is going up to $7, $8 a gallon in certain places? How can we laugh at this? Does your Father not know that you have need of these things? You see, you're being tricked again. If it's not one thing, it's the other. I'm telling you, the world mind is going to throw one thing or another at you. It is all to be classified under the same category: nothingness. Nothing, nothing, nothing. The only thing God did in the Bible was speak, and it's ideas that govern the universe. Ideas. Ideas. You're dealing with a realm of idea. Manifestation. Idea hyphen manifestation. God's idea hyphen man is you. You are the man of God. Now, being the man or the manifest of God means that we can look through the manifest and we can say, well, these are all of the qualities that God put into his manifest. Now, what are those qualities that God put into you as the manifest? God put in, here, I'll just break it down to you. The fruits of the Spirit, obviously, goodness, peace, kindness, joy, love, faith, patience, goodness, all of these things were put into you. Okay? Now, here's the big revelation. When you recognize that those are the only true qualities that you could ever possess, because they're the only true reflections of life, then you let go of anything else that appears to be troubling you in your thought. It's always coming to you in thought, trying to steal your joy. The whole game of the simulation or the matrix or the carnal mind, whatever you want to call it, is hide the good and steal your joy. Rob, steal, and kill. Now, it does the killing by putting you under a dead vessel, nom de guerre, dead carcass, all capital, fiction letter name, saying identify with the flesh and you're guilty by association. That's how it kills you. Because as soon as you identify with personality, you're dead. You're dead to spirit and alive in sin. Okay? Okay, there is no life in sin, but you become alive in it through thought. So, you're live, not memory, live. And oftentimes the memory comes to you and it gets you to go live through the memory, which is still the nothingness. So here's an idea. I'm gonna show you this. You just gotta stay with me. I have to dance around the subject. I have to tiptoe around it, because if I shoot it to you direct, you won't receive it. I gotta let you come up with the conclusion so you can think to yourself, aha, because that's the key. It has to come from within yourself. I have to urge you to look within and find the treasure inside where you and the Christ are one and the same. So yesterday was what a challenge yesterday was. You see, I'm going to tell you how I had this revelation yesterday. What a day. So anyway, there was a series of things that were just not going right. And one of those days where you just feel like, okay, that's fine. I can hold my attitude. This is all good. And then I reached out in prayer because I wanted to get some support from my top person. I have three primary top people that I pray with. And when I reach out, I say, hey, can you be in agreement with me? Let's know this truth. And what a difference it makes. What a difference. By the way, that's why I set that up for the people that are joining the Spiritual Healing Training Clinic, so they can have that benefit. Now, unfortunately, when I texted that message to her, I immediately got an auto text message back. And, it said, Diana unexpectedly passed away. And then it gave the date, a few days ago. We are sorry for your loss. Services will be held. Basically, the family is letting everybody know. And, I cried right then and there. I said, oh no, that's just another glitch in the matrix. What happened here? I just lost this connection to someone special to me that's been, really, really helping me along my spiritual journey. She's just been there for me all the time. I have to have people that are there for me too. When you walk the spiritual path, this is not all, fun and games. It's really a process of growth and development. And there's no growth, go to the gym, right? You don't grow unless there's some pain, okay? Well, there's going to be some pain in life as you grow, and I'd reach out to her as my primary when I had pain. And she's gone. And that's that. Deal with it, right? So then what I did is I looked back at all of our messages, and I thought, what a beautiful soul she is. She's not dead. She's only dead to the human sense. But what a beautiful soul, and what a gift God gave me for the time that she was allotted to my spiritual development. And this is the thing. I have entered a new chapter. And so along with that, the simulation changes and something else is different now. And that's one of the different variables that's in the new chapter. Okay? Remember, what you see, smell, hear, taste, and touch is not the true person. That's not the true manifest of God. Human eye doth not see the kingdom of God. But where she was coming through to me as the instrument of God, or good in my life, I could easily discern within all of our messages And the key is that those messages are still as full of life as they ever were. And I have a recorded history of all of those messages that I can always reflect back upon. Every time we spoke, she would send me a message, basically a nutshell of what we discerned together in truth. And I sent this out to our ministry partners that donate to our ministry. I sent an email describing the situation and how I felt so glad that I was able to, we donated, a good amount, 1/3 of all of our donations. We donated to her ministry because she was one of 3 that we donate to. And she would always say, you don't have to do that, this is, thank you for your generosity. It's she was just, I knew she was grateful. But you see, that was my way of loving her and the work she does for God. She ministered to probably tens of thousands of people. She's been around the game for a long time. And so I always felt, and I still feel this way, that, doing God's work is really, really something that should bring you the fruitage. And she knew that, and she didn't need it. That's the thing, is I was doing it out of love. And this is what Mary Baker Eddy talked about in the book. And this is part of the key here. What do you do with inflation? Well, recognize it as nothing. And second of all, how do you unlock the wisdom within yourself? An unselfed love receives immediate divine assistance. So here's the idea. When the world out there tricks you, it causes you to become selfish. That's the whole game. That's the opposite of being godly. You can't get anything to yourself, so being selfish is an absurdity, okay? I just found a really cool rock. That's coming home with me. So, by the way, there are seashells everywhere here. It's just, this is paradise, okay? So being selfish is self-preservation. It's what Jesus said you should not do. You should not take thought for your life. You should not worry about what you shall eat, what you shall drink, on all of these things. So what is this world trying to get you to do? It's changing some numbers around and telling you that you can't afford it because you're trapped in ideas that don't work. So stop and pause and recognize that you are trapped in ideas, found some matching rocks, that do not work. You're trapped in ideas that don't work. What ideas are you in? The idea that your job is your income, the idea that your source of good comes from outside of yourself, and the idea that you are responsible for taking care of your own needs, the idea that you have limited time in the day, you earn money per hour or you earn it per transaction, the idea that you're limited. Man's supply is not limited to economic conditions. It is not limited to governmental policies. It is not limited to what the so-called markets are doing. None of that stuff is real. But it all tries to get you to believe it's real so that you will stop loving and expressing divine love, because divine love alone is the all-sufficiency in all things. And out of the heart come the issues of life. And if you are to overcome the world and manifest the loaves and fishes and feed the thousands of needs that you have in your daily life, it is an impossibility to do it when you are self-preserving and seeking for selfish gain. So therefore, those who fall into temptation and agreement with that are going to be destroyed. For their own ignorance, they suffer. For lack of wisdom, the people perish. For you of yourself are nothing and can gain nothing of yourself. You can't acquire anything in a world that doesn't exist, can you? It's empty. It's 99.99997% empty space. Where are you going to accumulate all of the treasures of this world when it's not even real? The whole thing is the size of a softball when you take the empty space out of it. You're living in a dream trying to capture the good that God has not bestowed. And the only good is the good that God has bestowed. Where is that good? It is in consciousness, in a state of reflecting the unlimited supply of divine love that forever meets every human need. And I'll give you another key. Someone in trouble is your doorway out of trouble every time without fail or exception. See, somebody has a need. Somebody, somewhere requires something that you can offer from a position of coming from the supply, being able to offer it. What can you offer to your brother or sister? What is it that you can offer? Now, here's the idea. Turn away from this world. Turn away from the illusion that this world is in of itself anything of treasure or value. It has nothing to offer you. It is a dead, barren, empty fraud. It is a liar from the beginning. It is a fictional sense of time-space illusion. Don't fall into it. Turn to the Father within and ask the Father for wisdom. Ask for wisdom, not things. Remember, there are two goddesses that live inside of you. The goddess of wealth and the goddess of wisdom. When you pursue the goddess of wealth, self-preservation, trying to take thought for your own life, assuming that you of yourself can do anything, that you have any qualities whatsoever of your own, and using your human will to make ends meet, you have just given yourself in adultery to the world mind. And the world mind is the seductress. It is the Delilah spell, and it will cut the hair off of you, which is your spiritual strength. See the story of Samson? It's going to cut the hair off of you. That is your spiritual strength. What you do is you deny her. You turn away from all of her claims and emanations and allure, and none of it is real. You see, Diana didn't die. She died to human sense. Diana never lived in human sense. Human sense just upgraded itself to see the truth when I looked through the text messages and I recognized that the life that was in Diana was the life of God or good coming to me through what appeared to be a vessel of human doing. See, that's to see things as they truly are. Now, when you pursue the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of wealth becomes jealous and chases you for a lifetime. So how do you apply that? Well, last night, after this day, my human sense got rattled, which is fine. When I came to my spiritual senses, I laughed and I said, this world is SHIT, Ship High in Transit. That's the acronym, Ship High in Transit. They put the manure up high because of the gas fumes, so they had to ship it up high. Ship High in Transit. So this world is a bag of SHIT because it's always stirring up ignorance, and it's the goddess of wealth. And it has one mind. It's an impersonal mind. Okay? There are two things you need to know about impersonal. There's an impersonal carnal mind, what I call mortal fiction, that stirs up envy and strife, always trying to hide the good and trying to make a claim of this. Guess what? You know what it tries to claim every time? God is absent here. Just that alone will break the dream entirely if you understood what I just said. The lie is always one thing, that there are two powers, good and evil, and that implies also good. There is no power in the good that you can acquire of this world, of yourself. So to think that that's good is just as detrimental to you as to think that something bad like inflation can steal your good. Neither one of them exist. The only good is the good which God bestows. Where is that good coming from? It's coming from you. It's coming from within you, and the supply is limitless. It's like water over Niagara. God's supply never runs dry. Now, make yourself a note card, put it in your car, put it on your bathroom mirror, wherever you want, and recognize that God's supply never runs dry. God's supply never runs dry. Okay? Now, whenever you look at that card, and then the world is tempting you to think that you can't afford something, or that you're going to run out of good, I want you to say, right where this condition seems to be coming to me in thought, is God not present here? Well, of course God's present here. And if God's present here, the supply never runs dry. So what is obstructing it? Your personality. Well, then we have to get rid of your personality, don't we? Because if we get rid of your personality, then all that's left is God. See, you are the nothing. God is the one. And if we can get rid of you, then we have nothing but the one. And the one contains all good and knows no lack, knows no deficiency, has no shortage of ideas to meet every human need. See, when you turn within, pursuing the goddess of wisdom, which is why you should ask for wisdom and not wealth, God will always lead you and guide your ways. But you have to unplug from this dream of thinking that you exist in this world. You don't exist in this world. You're in the world, but not of it. It means that you appear to be this flesh creature that walks the earth, when in truth, God alone exists. God alone is. So pray not to receive your own desires. Pray to know the allness of God. Pray to know the allness of God. Because in the allness of God, the all-sufficiency is manifest already and cannot be anything other than its own very nature, which is forever supplying good, love, faith, patience, peace, kindness. There is no change in the immutable one. So anything that changes, anything that perceives to be going in the wrong direction, is coming from personality. It's coming from the world mind, coming from ego. You're going to have to slay it. So last night, after I said the world is a bag of shit, I recognized they're not even there. They're not even there. None of them. None of them. None of the so-called evildoers that you think are coming to take away your entire future are even there. There's nothing there but God. There is nothing aside from God. God alone exists. Pray to know that truth. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God is the remedy for every good thing that you seek. Because in God's presence, there is no lack. There is no deficiency. there is no strife. There is only the all supply of divine love that has already been poured out. It's not about getting anything. It's about recognizing that there's nothing to heal. There's nothing to get. There is nothing that was ever created outside of God's love. Period. That's the true way that you overcome this false suggestion of inflation, of whatever else they throw at us. And who is they? It's the world mind and all of its emanations arguing the claim for God's absence. It's ignorant of the light. So what does it seek? The light. So bring the light of truth into the pocket of deficiency that comes in thought. Don't try to change anything in the world. Just like a vacuum, suck that whole mortal construct right back into its thought and bring the light to your thought. And see, then you just collapse. You collapse the whole superstructure of the matrix. That's how it works. You implode it upon itself. You get it to see its own ignorance, and it self-destructs. Error destroys error. So get it to see its own ignorance by shining the light of truth on your thought. And what that is that's the double-edged sword when the Holy Spirit comes and purifies consciousness so that you and Christ become equal. That's what's happening here. You're in a school. You and Christ are becoming equal. You're maturing in your spirituality. You are as safe as God. Everywhere you go, you are as safe as God. It reminds me of this thing. I used to have this. Remember the footprints? It's the story about how God carried you when there was only one set of footprints. I grew up with that little painting in my house. You know, it starts off with two sets of footprints, and then there's only one. And the prayer is, God, how come there's only one set? And the thought, the human thought was, I walked alone. And the truth was, God carried you. Just let God carry you. Get rid of your personality. Get rid of all of your wants and your striving. And just say, I am absolutely not concerned. Because I know wonderful things are happening here. Because God is all there is. Good is all that was ever created. And rest in peace. Remember, how do you kill your personality? Rest in peace. And by God, the app will be done sometime soon. I keep saying that. But you see, they had to keep resubmitting it because there were discrepancies that they didn't like with the app, etc. To remove some things. Whatever. But it'll be up soon. And use that several times a day, because those aphorisms will undo the ignorance of this world in your thought and cause you to turn within. Don't go without, go within. Seek the goddess of wealth. See, every time you think of using that app, it's a reminder to seek the goddess of wisdom. Seek the goddess of wisdom. Okay, not wealth. Wealth comes because you seek the goddess of wisdom. Because it gets jealous. When you seek wealth, when you go to the world out there and you say, let me gather my treasures, then what happens is you have the hair cut off. Delilah cuts the hair off of you, Samson. Your spiritual strength gets diminished. You become drunk with power, false power that the world has. See, drunk with power, what does drunk mean? It's an intoxication. It means that you're inebriated. It means that you're not in your right mind. And if you're not in your right mind, you're in the carnal mind. And if you're in the carnal mind, you're dreaming in sin. And therefore, all good that you have acquired in that dream of sin is no good whatsoever. Because guess what? It is barren even on the Sabbath day of rest. So, I have shared with you the truth. I have given you the way out. Fear not, for I am with thee, is the commandment. To trust God and not rely on your human perceptions. There is no world out there. There is no world out there. There is no world out there. Look at it straight in the eye and say, you are nothing. You were nothing from the beginning. You're a liar. And that's all you need to know. See, that's the Christ in you, the consciousness of truth that has already overcome the world, staring straight in the eye of the Delilah spell, of the Satan, okay, the ignorance of the Father personified as an impersonal mind, and saying you are nothing. You never knew truth. You never contain any ounce of truth. You have no life. You have no law. You have no power. You are barren. You are nothing but a mist, a cloud, a vapor of ignorance, nothing but a shadow, a ghost. Are you afraid of the ghost, the boogeyman under the stairs? Because the world out there is the boogeyman under the stairs. So how do you overcome the boogeyman under the stairs? Well, when I was little, this happened to me. I watched this scary movie one time, and they had this, like the Freddy Krueger would come through the window and like suck you out of your house, and then there was this movie about these bugs, and they were starting the house on fire, and I was so scared see, that's the human mind and all of its perversions. So those thoughts are the same thing as the thoughts of inflation, by the way. They don't exist, neither one of them. Inflation exists about as much as Freddy Krueger, okay? See, what you're dealing with is the financial Freddy Krueger right now. And it's saying, I'm going to come up from under your bed, and I'm going to take your good from you. I'm going to take your livelihood. I'm going to take everything. And I'm going to leave you destitute, and you're going to be my slave. See, when you understand that you're dealing with a ghost, are you afraid of what a ghost is going to do to you? Only until you come to your spiritual senses. So when I was young, I sat in my hallway. I'd wake up in the night and I'd sit there in a ball, and I'd look around and I'd be like so terrified because I thought the bugs were coming or Freddy Krueger was coming. And then this happened for a while until I just got still. And I just turned within to God. And something happened in that moment where the fear just left. Once the fear left, I just went right back to bed and all was well. And that's exactly what happens in this circumstances also, is that this is nothing but fear and confusion, lack of trust, division, double-mindedness, the 5 steps to sin that the carnal mind walks you through. The carnal mind says, here, I have an invitation for you to come into my world of wealth, what I know, the treasures of this world, which are no good whatsoever because they don't contain any source of life, because there's nothing there. And it either says, you should become addicted to this pursuit, like trying to, go out and get something of your own self. Like, the irony here is that there are these people out here that are like, they call themselves like day traders and all these other things. It's such a left brain activity. It's human reasoning on steroids, basically. And the vast majority of almost all of them actually lose money. The irony of it is that they think they're professionals at what they do. So they study up and they get all this knowledge and they read all these charts and they get all this data, right? Spend a lifetime doing it. And the vast majority of them fail. Virtually almost all of them. It's a sobering moment, isn't it? Because human vanity is nothing. Whereas someone in their right mind can be, walking along, just knowing the allness of God, and someone calls and says, hey, you should take a look at this. And they say, oh, sure, what the heck? They throw a few $100 in it, and it turns into being like, 1,000, 10,000 times return, right? See, God alone exists, and God's mind is the only good that is bestowed. And when you walk with God, in other words, what I'm submitting to you is that when you walk in the consciousness of truth, of God's allness, you will be in the recipient mode for that divine call. That divine idea will meet you. Case in point, I know you like to hear these stories because it gives you the example of how you can insert yourself into the story and see it through your own life experience. So another case in point is I'm at this nutrition store when I was, coming out of Lyme disease in 2010. Lo and behold, our 30 plus people that came into the store a day that provided for, all of the income for that store, which, by the way, the store was still losing money. So it was an impossible situation. I hadn't yet realized how impossible it was until I got to the moment when they cut the traffic from the street so that there was no longer, I'm just going to put these rocks down, by the way, so I don't have to carry them constantly. I'm going to leave them outside of the door here at the condo. All right, so there we go. Here. All right, so by the way, here's the deal. The store was failing and the street got shut down because of construction to where there was only 2 to 3 walk-ins a day. All right, now the store couldn't make money with 30 plus walk-ins a day just to provide for itself. So now we're gonna take it even further. Now, that's what you call the same thing as what you say inflation is, right? Now think about it. Think about how that's the same dream, all right? Look, let me break this down to you so you get this. The store used to have 36 people a day on average, right? 36. Now, you could say that that's the buying power of the currency of that store, okay? Like imagine you have $36 in your pocket. There's your buying power, right? You have $36 of discretionary income every week is your buying power. Well, that store had $36 a day, if you will, of discretionary income to pay its, all of its lavish expenses, right? And then because inflation came along and robbed the value, so this street got shut down, the main drag, where all the traffic was. That's the only reason that the store existed there anyway, was because of that main drag. It got shut down for a whole year for construction, the whole season, the whole summer season. Everything was just shut down. Went down to 3. Okay? 3 into 36 is 12. I lost 12 times my purchasing power. So in other words, you could say, if you're looking at it in terms of inflation, okay, my 3 became 12 times higher. So the price of everything for me became 12 times higher overnight. Overnight. The price of everything went 12 times higher overnight. Think about it. It's the same tension of polarities that you may experience as your greatest fear comes upon you because, hey, let's say the price of eggs goes up 12 times tomorrow. Let's say the price of gas goes up 12 times tomorrow. It goes from 4 to, $60, something like that, whatever. What are you gonna do? Well, here's what I did. I recognized the nothingness of anything outside of myself. I said, you know what? There is no human solution because there is no human mind. Pay attention to me because I'm showing you the path. There is no human solution because there is no human mind. The human solutions are what create the problems. The human solution and the problem are one and the same. So if you try to solve the problems with the human mind, you're actually reinforcing the problems. So everybody came along to me and they said, oh my gosh, you should do this. You should advertise more. Go borrow money from your friends and run more radio ads. That's what the franchisor told me. Now, am I to assume he has a clue just because he's the franchisor? He's the guy that owns all the stores, right? He's the guy that offloaded me a store that was losing money. Am I gonna think that he knows anything? Am I gonna fall under the spell of his authority? No. I said, he obviously doesn't have a clue. I'm not gonna borrow money from my friends to siphon down this money-losing pit. See, my tax guy came in, walked through the store and said, let me see your inventory. Let me see what you got on hand. Let me see your assets, and let me see what your expenses are and your cash flow. And he looked at me, and he was a friend of mine for years. He says, dude, you're screwed. He's like, there's no way out. I'm sorry. He's like, this thing's over. All right, so he told me that. So I've got two people telling me the world mind, human opinion. Human opinion right there. Human opinion. Great. Then I've got my own fears. Okay, I call them mine because they're the subjective fears that have been troubling me for this entire period of my life up until then, which is, inadequacy, feeling like, oh man, I don't have what it takes to do this. Like, I've never done this before. You see those kind of thoughts? Those are not your thoughts either. That's the world mind. They're all the same. It's all the same. Stop. The thoughts that are troubling me, the thoughts that were in those so-called other individuals, it's all one the same. It's zero. It's the world mind. It's nothing. Nothingness tried to walk around me like the shadow behind me right here. The nothingness pursued me and tried to tell me that it had life. See, look, pay attention to me. This is divinely ordained for you. The one is the consciousness of life itself. The zero is the ether rarefaction. See, light and then ether rarefaction. Light, ether rarefaction. Now get this. Ether rarefaction is the zero. It's the world itself. When you look at the zero, you see nothing. When you look through the zero, you see the world. So what did I do? I said, what is the fastest path to my joy in this moment? Regardless of the fallout. Thank you for teaching me that, mentors. I know who you are, and you taught me that. I'll always be grateful. Nothing but love, nothing but love. Yes, I learned that from a mentor at the time when I needed it the most. And what a beautiful answer it was, because the regardless of the fallout comes from that right there. Is that not the fallout of the light right here that you see? It's the fallout. So what do you think? What do you think I did? I said, well, the fastest path to my joy is to go play guitar right now. And and the fallout, the carnal mind said, well, that's not going to make you any money. Are you crazy? And I said, the entire world is not even there. Fear not, for I am with thee. I and my Father are one. Well, I better get about my Father's business, right? Well, what is my Father's business? My Father's in the joy business, because that's a fruit of the Spirit. My Father's in the peace business, because peace is the prince of what you call Christ. It's the air, right? The prince of the air is the counterfeiting version of Lucifer in the shadow, and the truth of it is the prince is Christ, the consciousness. Peace is the fragrance of that. So, in my own peace, which I took by turning away from Delilah, from the world. Hi there.
Good morning.
Hi. Oh. And I declared it all as nothing. I said, there's nothing happening here but the presence of God. I turned away from the boogeyman under the stairs. You see, that boogeyman under the stairs says, you have a 12x inflationary problem. You are beyond screwed. There is no way out. It is over, pal. I turned away from all of it, just like I would turn away from the boogeyman under the stairs. And the fastest path to my joy was to go lock that front door, just in case anybody wanted to come in, because I wanted to go play guitar in the back room. So I went and played guitar in the back room, and I got into an uplifted state of joy. And I recognized that one with God is a majority. Do you see that? I took all the power from the shadow and I put it back to the one. That's what repentance is. Listen to me closely. I am here to serve you. Okay, I've walked this path. I'm sharing with you how to do it. I took the power from all the voices and all of the emanations from that shadow world that lied to me like a boogeyman under the stairs, and I put it all back into the one. That's repentance. One with God is a majority. Now, from this position, playing my guitar in the back room, that divine mind, because I was in agreement with it, gave me an idea. I had a glimpse, a revelation. I saw the answer. I know what to do. I know what to do. I was so excited. When you do exactly what I told you, and God gives you that moment of inspiration, that bread of life that comes from within yourself, do not hesitate. Don't question God. Don't argue with the giver. I immediately acted upon it. I made a 7-minute video doing an online presentation of something that worked every time I'd sell it in the store to a certain person. And I put it up on YouTube, and by the grace of God, because it was by the grace of God. See, an idea from God is already given grace, okay? It went number 1 on YouTube that night, and it stayed up there for years. And it was an immediate 6-figure income. Immediate. It was nothing short of feeding the 5,000 or casting the net and bringing up all the fish. Please understand that I'm giving you this video to show you how you do it within yourself. I can't say to you, do this, do this, do this. I have to share with you all of the different ways of looking at it so that you come to your own conclusions. Because you and God are one and the same, and one with God is a majority. And once you get that, once you get it, then you will be able to fish in the way that I just showed you. And every idea that comes from God, I want to tell you a secret about it. It is what has already been ordained for you. You see, the world isn't there. So pursuing the things of this world is trying to get something that God didn't give you. See, focus more on what God's bringing to you after you've stripped the power away from the shadow, the fiction, the ignorance. And you will know the truth. And the truth will set you free. And you don't have to fear anything anymore.